are, all with attention, paying attention, thank you. Okay, with that, calling to order all members present and accounted for. Correspondence, we have some correspondence, some of which I would like to discuss briefly. First being, Dominic, you addressed a letter to one of the applicants, and if you would just provide a really brief summary of it so that it's on the record.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And the planning board fully consents and agrees with your comments, it's really very well done, thank you.
Well, thank you. This is in connection with the B&G Woods project. We discussed it briefly last month at your April meeting. At the March work session, the B&G Woods project representatives appeared at the work session with a revised concept for their project, as well as a revised proposal to include senior housing, to increase the buildings in height from 2 stories to 3 stories, reconfigure the project and how those buildings were laid out, and also to change primary access to old rail bed that Route 94. What we discussed at the work session, and was really confirmed in my letter, was the fact that given the substantial changes that were being proposed, and not least of all, that you'd like to mention, was an increase of units by an additional 90 units, I believe, above what was previously proposed, 90 residential. That this would require a new application for the board to consider. So that was just really confirmed what was discussed at the work session and then we touched on briefly last month's meeting.
And very well done, and thank you for writing the letter. Brent, I'll get the rest of the letters to you. There was one letter that I responded to addressed to myself and the planning board related to what I did not overhear, but I understand at the last meeting there was use of rather obscene profanities on the way out of the meeting, which we didn't, I don't think any board member overheard, but I'll ask with a degree of courtesy that maybe that should never happen again. If it does, I'm going to have the police remove the person, and that person will not appear before the planning board if I have anything to say about it. It's very rude to have that come back to me, especially from a member of the public, and not to mention stupid. And I appreciated that whoever I do not know who it is, whoever it is, shame on you, and if it happens again, I'll make a point of addressing it personally and directly, and file a formal complaint with the police department, because I think it's absurd that somebody takes time, whether it's coming to a meeting or walking out of a meeting and publicly displays profanities that I understand were expressed. So I responded to that to a person who was courteous enough to me to file a formal complaint about it, and I certainly hope not to ever hear that again. Everyone received a copy of the minutes?
Yes.
Take a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolutions. Dominic, do you have any resolutions?
No resolutions tonight, but you do have an extension request.
Yes.
For the Cornwall Commons project. This is not the treetop project, but the original Cornwall Commons project has maintained their bulk subdivision approval of the Cornwall Commons site, which was previously granted by this board. This would not allow any development, but merely took the overall site and carved it into 10 lots, which is not that yet effective, but the applicant for that project is requesting an additional 6-month extension. The board has been granting them as a matter of course, and if you recall, this has preliminary approval. So if that original Cornwall Commons project was to come back before the board, you would have an additional opportunity to review the plans prior to granting or considering conditional final approval.
And there was a checklist that was attached to that, correct?
Correct.
And the checklist was completed and all that?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone have any issues? It's kind of a pro forma deal.
Move we grant the extension.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Okay, with that, we have discussion. Kristen, we had a Star Warehouse question?
Yes, so the applicant, this board adopted an FEIS in, I think, finally, in March. I prepared a draft of the lead agency secret findings statement in April that was discussed by this board. We received feedback and revisions from Phil Greeley of Colliers Engineering, from village engineer, village business. Busy. Sorry, it's only Monday. From Sean, from the town engineer, from Dominic, and as well as from the applicant himself. And so we have a final draft ready for this board to make any additional comments that you may have. Otherwise, I would recommend adoption of this document.
Okay, does anyone have any comments on that?
We've spent a long time preparing it, and I think it's well done, so I think it's ready to go.
Well done, Kristen. If there are comments, we have to approve that?
Yes.
Motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Kristen, for doing that.
No problem. And I will, you did ask, just to bring up that there was an email from the New York State DOT that it's reflected in this document. That's what I checked while you were speaking earlier. It is reflected in this document. It was copied to Phil Greeley, Colliers also, so he's the best. So if there would have been anything in there that would have raised a blood flag, he would have called me and told me something that needed to change. So I believe that you're covered in terms of that email as well.
We have to work with Phil for many, many years, so I don't know if he's made any mistakes, he hasn't. But thanks for
I
that.
won't speak to that, but I will say he's the best.
All right, then. So before I move on, I would like to make one point, which I forgot to open the hearing with, or the meeting with rather, and that is that, sending the best wishes to Diane from the building department. She is undergoing surgery tomorrow, and I apologize to Diane, she's on the air, or whoever, but Diane's an integral part in the wheel of movement for this entire team, and we'll miss her, but best of luck to her. Okay, with that, we'll move on to a public hearing. Clove Brook Farm, are you here? This time of the public hearing is 7:02, a brief presentation. You can present to the general public since it's a public hearing. Is there any members of the general public here for the purpose of this public hearing? Let me start out with that. There are no members. I think then, the board, do you want to have the just switch it around. Sorry.
Are there any substantial, Mr. Chairman, are there any, the applicant, are there any substantial changes since the presentation that we saw 30 days ago?
Yes, we did add some more photography evidence, and we just provided some more labeling on the drawings or the actually the photography to show, so it's easier for the board to see what we're talking about.
Well done 30 days ago, so I suspect it's
We'll
better
get
than
that.
it was well done then. Okay.
I do have, I just want to submit the affidavit of mailing and affidavit of publication. I don't know who to give that to. So I could just jump right into it then and just talk about some of the changes that we did to the photography. So on RP1 in your set, it should be the third to last page in the package. This talks about some photography from Otterkill Road and from Clove Road. All right, so really, I want to just talk about the 5 items that we're going to be working on. The artist barn, which both from Clove Road and from the gate entry, it is the existing footprint that we're going to be building on. We are raising the building 2 foot 8 inches. It is the same siding. It is the same archetype of board and back siding. The workshop, which is not visible. This is the former dairy barn that is beyond the ridge. We cannot actually see it from any of the public ways, streets. The ceramic studio, which has a portion, this is at the, if you can go to RP3, that's your last page of your packet. It is still the first page, I'm sorry for that. RP1, this is, yes, on the right side, you'll see the painting and ceramic studio. We threw a label showing that where the painting studio is and beyond it is the ceramic studio. We see a small portion of the roof line from Otterkill Road. We are not proposing to change the roof height other than finishes for the roofing. The pool house and pool, those are not visible either from public streetways. The reading room, best to stay on RP1. This is also the top center photo. We have an existing wood storage shed that's planned to be removed, which is a point of scale. And then just to the left of it is our reading room. This is just for visual. This is the private. This is the private, organic, very, the plan is to have very earth tone colors, natural materials used for that. Finally, the agriculture barn, which is what we're proposed to be the largest of the buildings. This is best to be seen. This is where we go to RP3. This sheet shows a vantage point from Otterkill Road. We went above and beyond and hiked the north trail above the hiking trail parking lot to get a vantage point of that open land. If you can see in the top left photo that there's a label going down, that's the agriculture barn. Just below that is the open field where we'll be proposing this project. Both the top right and the bottom two photographs are labeling.
That's this you're talking about?
Nope, the last page. RP3.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Bottom, top right and the bottom two photographs are from Otterkill Road. The maps indicate the vantage point of where the photography was taken and the indication of where the building is. We did our best to get it before the trees leafed out to show the possible impact of the visual. This building is planned to be a metal framed building, very agricultural in nature, industrial, and built with green siding.
This is new construction, correct?
I'm
That
sorry,
building is new construction?
that is new construction. Yeah, it's,
So I'm looking at RP3, where am I looking for the representation of walking?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So in RP3, it says something about roof line as viewed, but I'm having trouble making out where that roof line is in this drawing.
Sure, if I could actually direct you to RP1, bottom right.
Right, but I mean, the view I'm looking at is RP3, lower right-hand corner.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering what I'm looking at there.
It's pointing to the center point of the field where it's going to go. We did not put any flags out, we did not show.
And how tall is that building in that location?
The ridge height is 23 feet, 2 inches. Mean roof is 20 feet, 1 1/2. There's another photograph that helps to show where the ridge line is. Again, RP1, bottom right photo. There's a dash line that's running across the sheet. That is our assumed height of the ridge of the building.
Okay. You see that?
Yeah, but I'm just not clear in that one where I'm looking from.
From that photo, we're at Otterkill Road. The map on the top left of that same sheet, there's a embolded lettering that's at the top, shows the timestamp. And it says new pole barn.
I think we can have the board questions
after I close the public hearing in a likely event that there are no members of the general public wishing to comment on the project, I'll close the public hearing. And then we can continue perhaps with those questions before we move forward in the interest of an expeditious hearing. So, if I might, do you have other comments in terms of?
Just about the Otterkill Land Trust, that we have the improvements for the workshop, surrounding studio. They have reviewed all the other buildings and areas of work. They are meeting with their attorney on May 13th, and they're scheduling a site visit the property.
I had the liberty of speaking with Mr. Long about the project.
Our representative is Chris Biondi.
Okay, they seem to be very substantial. So, was it? Are there any members of the general public wishing to comment on this project? Seeing none, I'll ask a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, therefore, now we can go to comments and then we can continue your.
I think I figured it out. Thanks.
He's always good at figuring stuff
The
out.
printing in the upper left thing is just pretty tiny. I was trying to get an eyeball.
Okay, Krista, do you have any comments?
No, I don't have any additional comments on the analysis. The one thing I did want to mention though, is I sent you an email after our last meeting, regarding coordination with the State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO. And just wanted to remind you that that has to be done. It takes typically 2-3-ish weeks to get a response back from SHPO from submittal. So I just wanted to give you that additional heads up that you'll need that to close out submittal.
I agree, thank you. I wanted to complete the public hearing prior to continue.
I'm just
Thank
throwing it
you.
out there. Because I didn't really, I forgot to tell the board last time, and I did, felt bad that I didn't mention it formally, I just sent you an email afterwards, so.
Okay. Yeah, in the submission that you have, there's no improved or updated engineering drawings. There's nothing about the SWIFT report. We were just focusing on the public hearing regarding the overlays. But the next submission will have all the documents that we talked about in the workshops.
Sure.
With that, since there were no new civil drawings, I have an additional comment from last time.
Okay, very good. Steve?
No comment.
John? Skipping you first. Phil?
I don't have any comments, Michelle has some comments, so I didn't know if they're gonna be taken care of or not.
Yeah, the applicant's representative indicated that there was no new submission on the civil aspect, so they will be responded to in the next round.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, Led, you're back on.
No, only that, when I looked at the impacts, it's supposed to be a view shed analysis to some degree, and I didn't see any of these structures or piercing the skyline, or actually, it's very advantageous, the view from Otterkill Road, which is the principal view, looking to sort of the, I guess you're looking mostly to the north from there. Is that accurate? Because you're looking at Scunnamunk.
Yeah,
Across the
we're
property has Scunnamunk, and Scunnamunk in the background dominates the skyline. And so you won't see anything, piercing that ridge line behind. And so I think that's great. And to me, for the rest of the board, I did take a look at it, and I didn't think that the view shed impacts would be significant.
That's important. Thank you. That's good. Yeah, with that, Dominic, this is an application for a special use permit, am I correct? This is the required public hearing, we have closed. And Sean's engineering comments and Kristen's concerns about the other comments could be incorporated as part of an approval resolution, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
We'd ask you to prepare a resolution pending the meeting of those.
We certainly prepared that, and there's no obligation for the board to adopt it, or there may be, the plans may not be ready, or the applicant may not be ready, but what's being suggested is that the board is asked myself to prepare a resolution of approval for next month's meeting, assuming that you're in good shape at that point.
So is the deadline for the documents for the resolution prior to?
It would be, you would need to make a submission by the regular submission deadline for the June meeting, which I believe would be Wednesday, the 22nd. Yes.
So any approval at that meeting to vote on the resolution would be conditioned on meeting the Sean standards and Kristen's comment. That's it. Is that good?
Understood.
That's good enough, okay. Thank you. Okay, with that, we have Butterhill Holdings, Inc.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Daniel Stafford, RCO with Northern Burgess for the applicant. This is an application for site plan approval and special use permit to convert the former Chase Bank branch located at the roundabout into a new university pre-K facility, 2 classrooms, each capable of holding 20 students. As you probably know, Ms. Blunt currently operates Butterhill Day School located in the village on Hudson Street. And I provided a summary of the project in my cover letter with the application. So happy to address any questions the board has.
Because you seem, as a matter of record, has been a previous member of this very board and is pretty familiar with the procedures of the board. We're not on trial, so you don't stand like that.
This is my first time in front of this board, so I wanted to make sure I got it right.
Well, you did a good job preparing the materials, but with that, okay, and with that, I think we'll just see what Kristen has to say.
The applicant proposes to reuse, obviously, the existing Chase Bank buildings, 3,460 square foot building, for daycare center, max 40 students, 6 staff members, according to the applicant's information. Minimal exterior site modifications are proposed. What is proposed is essentially a 4,000 square foot fenced-in play area at the rear of the site, and a crosswalk for access to that play area. The site is located in a GC zone. Daycare centers are permitted by special permit. The applicant did provide all that on their plan with the appropriate bulk requirements. The bulk table provided demonstrates that the plan is consistent with the bulk requirements. No variances appear to be required. Based on the zoning code, the applicant has the number of parking spaces that are required for daycare. They have those on site already. The one question that I did have was with respect to signage. There's obviously 2 Chase Bank signs. I would assume that those are coming down. The removal should probably be on the plan, and if you are putting in another signage, if you're putting in signage that's not affixed to the building, you should let us know where that is now. If the signage is just going around the building, then that can go through Gary's office at another time. The applicant did provide a short EAF. We found that acceptable. No, the applicant is type 2 because of its limited size, and use that's permitted under zoning, so you don't have to take any further seeker action. The special permit does require a public hearing, and we believe the plans are ready for a public hearing. I did this application requires referral to the county, which I made on April 29th when I received it.
Yep, very minor comments on the plans. Obviously, the playground is proposed with fencing around. We'll need details for the construction of fencing. There's also a crosswalk proposed that will need details to construct that as well. I also had minor comments with regards to making sure that the handicap parking spaces meet ADA code and don't need to be changed to meet the required slopes. Otherwise, I feel the plans are adequate to the public hearing.
Thank you. Okay, Steve?
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Jason, your no comment, Bill?
No, I think it's consistent with the GCUs and would be a welcome addition to our downtown.
I just have one question. The ingress and egress, as I understood, there's not going to be any egress or ingress off of the traffic circle. Am I correct about that?
No, the way it is now is the way it's gonna remain.
If I only use Chase Bank, I know how the.
You come in off of Broadway and then you come out by the
Broadway.
circle.
And there's no buses involved?
No buses,
No school buses or anything like that?
no.
Okay, with that, I think that, and so our consultants are satisfied, to move to the public hearing, level. I'll ask for a motion to, schedule a public hearing for June. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you'll have a public hearing.
So, Sean, on there I say that it's a chain link 6-foot black fence.
Yeah, you'll need a construction detail, how far the posts have to be embedded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before the public hearing?
Not before.
No,
You don't have to do it before, but typically we do see responses prior to,
okay,
or, on your submission.
okay.
So very much at the beginning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got, 2 girls, 1 boy holding LLC.
Good evening, Board Landscape applicant, the Grove on Wood Holdings LLC. Okay. Well, good evening. It's my understanding, we had a number of comments, and obviously everyone's familiar with the project. Since our last appearance here, the big bugaboo was the fire apparatus access roads, and I believe we resolved those. And just for recap, we are using Main Street as one apparatus access road, and the other one comes in and goes around the building here. This additional out the back is not an apparatus access road, it's just shown. We did model it, and the truck can get out the back as well, and come in the back as well, but it doesn't qualify. And that it's not 26 feet, but the truck can come here, and the other truck can come here, and they can come from different directions, so we believe we meet the code. I think the consultants agree, and the fire code official has done his review. I believe there was a memo put forward to the board in regard to that review. There's 3 conditions on that memo. The first condition, I believe we've met already, and the second and third condition are updates to the plan, mainly to make sure that we're not in the way of the ladders in the truck and putting the wires underground and what have you. And so that was, I think, what was holding us back. There was also a number of comments, which I believe our engineer has addressed on these plans, that if there are things here in these new memos, I am happy to get those together. And, you know, the request from applicant is that we are put forward to a public hearing.
Thank you. Those renditions are 44-foot fire trucks, I gather.
Yes, that's the size and turning radius as provided by Chief Hines.
Okay, with that, Kristen.
Yeah, most of my comments were addressed, the whole table is still addressed, with respect to variances. I won't go through it, I mentioned it. I will mention, that Member Grayback last month requested the applicant cite the survey, and that wasn't on there either. But otherwise, the application is listed under seeker, and I believe we were just waiting on, outstanding engineering items to complete seeker.
Okay, thank you. And so, Kristen, on that basis, you feel comfortable with the public hearing?
Yeah, I have no objection.
Okay, thank you. Sean?
Sure, so to reiterate what the applicant's representative stated, I did review the fire apparatus revised plans for access with Gary, and he and I feel that the plans meet the intent of the fire code. And Gary provided a letter with some certain restrictions that will have to be met on the plan. Otherwise, I had minor comments with regards to water to be served to the site that'll have to be reviewed by Mike Trainer and signed off on by the village water department. And the improvements within the county's right of way will have to be signed off by the county DPW. Otherwise, I have no objection for the board to schedule a public hearing this evening.
Yeah, on that fire issue, Gary, did you want to weigh in on that since you are the fire? Are you the fire for the town? Or is Sean handle it? Fine. Okay, Sean, so you feel that you're comfortable with public hearing?
I am, yep.
Okay, thank you. With that, Steve?
No, the fire code issue resolved, on that.
Mary Beth?
I have a few questions. My first question is, when you look at the plans that you recently submitted, in regard to, it says the upper floors for the rooms, is that for, it looks like it's for the
2 through 5 are all the same at this point in time. When we started off, we had a lounge on the 5th floor. At this point in time, we're showing 52 rooms, and The first floor has the amenities of the hotel, including the restaurant, bar, and the reception, and the gym, and the housekeeping services. The 2 through 5 are just rooms with the ancillary services.
So the proposed layout would be
Yes.
similar to this?
Yeah, we are,
And that would cover the top floor also?
yes.
Okay. My other question is, and this might even be for the consultants, has any professional certified that the footings and the walls are adequate to be able to build the 4-story building off of that?
Well, I can tell you that we have done some cores, we have done some excavation of the footings, and that you have a very thorough building department here with Gary, and those construction details will be reviewed. Our structural engineering is not 100% complete, but it will be. And so I'm confident that we're, going to put a strong building.
If I might, Gary, that would be subject to your final review and hiring.
I will conduct a review at the appropriate time.
Okay.
In regard to, my concern has always been the stormwater drainage, because I am concerned about that. In regard to the properties of the town, and of course, I want to have the town have to address an issue in the future.
If I may,
Sure.
Mayor, can I call you on the screen? So the initial plan we had, we were going to do pervious pavers to address that. This has changed with our new engineer, and there is some stormwater retention here in the front of the building. We have shared the concern. We all know what happened here last July with the floods, and we understand the town is working on a plan to take a lot of the water from that hill which came down Main Street and divert it a different direction. And we are anxious to be a part of that plan and make sure that it's successful.
My last question is in regard to, if you could turn the map back to the fire access. Fire access, I see where the trucks are coming in and the information. On the Purdy Lane side, or Fiddlestick side, for those of us who would be more familiar with that, I don't see any trucks delineated in that. So my concern is, if the fire is on that side of the building, how are the trucks, what is the access for that?
The truck is gonna be for, if it's on, I think we only have 1 ladder truck, but let's pretend we had 2 ladder trucks. You would have one here right on Main Street, and we modeled the ladder that can come right up here and go right up the front of the thing. And the hose, typical hose length on the trucks are 150 feet, will reach around this whole Purdy's Lane with the truck sitting on Main Street. And so there is not an issue with the truck not being able to go down Purdy's Lane. And this other truck comes all the way around here, and it can sit there. And in case of emergency, of course, the truck can be on Union Street, the truck can come down the back and sit there as well. So we think we have it covered.
And do we have a response from the fire department in regard to this proposal?
I believe we had a response last month from the fire department with a number of comments, and I believe we addressed all those comments. And now Gary is the fire code official, and he's reviewed that. We now have a memo, and we have his attestation that we're in compliance.
Okay, and according to that memo, it stated that there would be variances. Is that variance going to be from the New York State?
So we did have a little bit of luck there. We were able to get in touch with the engineer from the New York State Department of State, and we're able to review a variance request. I put together a variance request, and he indicated, which based upon how this works, we do not have a need for a variance requirement for remoteness, because a truck can come down Main Street and a truck can come down Union Street, and they're not gonna get stuck. And so that requirement is slightly different, and I believe we've fulfilled it, and I think your engineer now agrees.
If I might, Sean,
Yeah, so I actually did speak to the engineer that Mr. Lansky referenced, and he did get confirmation from him that The remoteness variance is not required.
Thank you, Mayor.
I appreciate the work you've done on the fire safety, and I've taken a look at your report on the storm water report, and I appreciate that, and I feel comfortable that we're moving in the right direction. I'd like to hear what the public has to say about it.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I just have one, is there a flag? And I'm not allowed to ask that?
Other towns ask.
Okay.
Other towns ask.
So you mean like the American flag or?
No, Maybe like I'll-
Yeah. I don't know if it's gonna be American flag or not, but I do know that we have contracted with Hilton in their Tapestry brand, which is you get to create a bit of your own identity. So it's intended to be a boutique hotel, but there's a brand behind it.
Okay, that, thank you for addressing my question. I know the American flag on the very good. Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, hearing no objections, does someone want to make a motion for a public hearing?
Move that we have a process.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
If I may, just two quick things. In connection with the public hearing, my suggestion would be that even though the revisions are fairly minor to the bulk table, as Kristen has been pointing out, I think for the public's purposes, it would be best to have one that's fully reflective of what the code requires, so that
Yeah,
there's an understanding.
I think that was agreed to already, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that, and secondly is, urge you to consider that we actually have a public hearing at Munger Cottage, because this application may have a lot of public interest, and that space has more space, available, I would think.
Okay, well, since we already have a public hearing, so we could have actually two public hearings. Would the public hearing be suitable for the June meeting?
As soon as developed.
Oh, I skipped that, I apologize, but.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, number one, express my appreciation to the applicant for putting together a more detailed fire response. I completely concur with Mary Beth's comments, and I would expect that we will hear from the fire chief at the public hearing, if not before. I guess the last memo we had from the fire chief was not especially positive. So it seems to me that all this has been remedied, and I appreciate that Gary and Sean have looked at it, but the fire chief is also someone whose opinion I'd be interested in hearing. And in terms of the stormwater, Sean, we've now resolved that we're considerably less than 1 acre of disturbance.
Considerably, I believe the disturbance is around 0.6 acres.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I think that's a great improvement in the project's prospects. And also for members of the public who are watching, either here or online, the public hearing is not the end of the process, and there will be significant opportunities based on that public input to make modifications or to improve the plan as it moves towards final approval. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I apologize for missing.
That's all right.
Rarely do, and you wouldn't let me anyway.
I'm not gonna stand here silent.
But I don't think I agree with your comments. It's time that the public provide input on it, and very useful. So with that, we have a public hearing scheduled at Owner Cottage in June. Will you be able to meet that?
Yes.
Be able to pose
Yes.
questions? Okay, thank you.
And I had provided a couple of site plans for adjoining properties for informational purposes to address a couple of questions the board had. I assume they're not required or don't need to be part of this set for the public hearing. Agreed. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, Rockridge Farm LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. My name is Mike Lacy, excuse my voice. I'm here to represent Rockridge Farms on a preliminary submission, just so the board can see it at this point, for discussion for a proposed Rockridge Farm filling and grading permit. The application is to fill approximately an 8 acre portion of a 107 acre piece. It's to increase the amount of usable farmland and pasture land available to the site. The site is located at 261 Otterkill Road. It is in the agricultural rural residence district and is coming on our agricultural scenic overlay It is a working farm. It is within the Open Space Institute Land Trust. The filling was submitted previously to the Open Space Institute, and it was approved to fill the portion that was, that's being presented to you. There is no building construction, there will be no new impervious areas. The applicant at this point is proposing in order to maintain Otterkill Road, sweepers will be available on the site, mechanical sweeping will be available. The hours of operation will be 7:30 to 5, Monday through Friday only. The load count is 20 to 100 loads per day, but that's all dependent on weather and availability of suitable fill. As of right now, when you look at the application, there's additional information that's needed on the survey, such as the meets and bounds, the adjacent owners. The access road in has to be topoed, so we can give you added proper grades and elevations on that. We're also looking to overlay the OSI maps on the site, just so you have the idea where that is, in conjunction with the proposed filling.
Is this a project in conjunction with OSI?
No, but OSI the letter was submitted,
Okay.
that the OSI has previously looked
Okay,
at.
sorry for interrupting.
No problem, sir. And, so we have quite a bit to do to these plans. They were really more diagrammatical, so we can talk to the board and get comments from the consultants.
Okay.
And we're welcoming any comments at this time.
Okay, so they're looking for comments tonight, and there's no action to be taken by the board. So the open, ended, do you have additional?
No, sir.
Okay, with that, so this will be open-ended discussion, try to let you do as possible. Kristen?
This application is for clearing and grading, so I don't have a ton of comments, leave most of that to Sean, but the applicant did correctly state the zone ARR district and Scunny Mountain Agricultural Sea Overlay District. I did want to point out that a section of the clearing and grading regulations require the plans show the type of vegetation to be removed. And there's two important reasons for that, I think, with this application, and one of them is because the EAF identifies potential bat and eagle habitat on the site, and the other one is because the town's new tree law is gonna speak to how many mature trees are being removed. So I think that we need to get that in the plans, which you said they're evolving.
Just so you know, no clearing or grubbing will be required in the area that's proposed.
So I think that's,
There are no trees.
I think sometimes that's as much of an important point as what you're removing, is it not removing? I think, again, particularly because this town recently adopted a tree preservation law that would require planting or replanting of mature vegetation that had been removed. So I think it's important for the plans to identify the ground cover that's there, and if there's no mature tree clearing at all, I would put a note on the plan that says that, so that there's no question as to why you did something or why you didn't do something. I think that's an important point. Also, again, that's, that would take it as well. So I think that those are both important points. Obviously, because OSI has a conservation easement over this site, because it is particularly environmentally sensitive. So the EAF has all kinds of check marks in it, because this is a beautiful piece of property and it is environmentally sensitive. There's wetlands, there's floodplain, there's threatened endangered species. Now that said, this clearing grading is not near the area of wetlands and not in the area of floodplain. But we do, again, with the vegetation, the EAF also identifies the site as having the potential for archaeological sensitivity, and it is contiguous to a house that's on the National Register of Historic Places. Because there's no actual development, no construction going in this site, I don't believe that there would be any adverse impacts to the stair house that's there. So I don't think that that is necessarily a concern, but the applicant, because of the size of this amount of fill and the need for the speedies permit, you are gonna have to coordinate with SHPO. As I mentioned earlier, SHPO is probably, especially if not actually doing anything, the SHPO turnaround is probably 2 or 3 weeks. So I would recommend getting that information uploaded. You'll just, some photos of the site and the site plan, and put a narrative, and you should be able to get that feedback from them. And now more bad news. So this site, the way that the secret regulations read, and based on the size and the fact that your, well, I don't think ag district actually is in play here, but based on the size, and the fact that you're adjacent to a historic property and a state park, which is directly on the opposite side of the train trestle, your threshold for becoming a type 1 action is reduced. So I think that this is a type 1 action under seeker. And I read it a bunch of times to make sure that I wasn't crazy because there's no construction, so one might not think that this would have the potential for multiple significant environmental impacts. But again, there's a reason why LSI holds a conservation easement over this property, and it happens to be because you are next to a state park and you have all these environmental checkpoints. So that being said, what I do need is a long form EAF. And that's procedurally, that's really the only difference between, the only necessary difference between an illicit action and a type 1 action is that you need a long form EAF. And I think that, again, based on the plans, and the additional information that you're gonna provide, I think that it's gonna be fairly clear that your project is minor, but this is a necessary step for the type 1 action.
Thank you, Kristen. Sean? Sure. So I'll start with the erosion sediment control stuff. As the applicant's representative stated, a lot more detailed information will have to be provided with regards to erosion sediment control. The applicant will be required to get or to file for coverage under the species general permit for stormwater discharges from construction activities once the plants are found to be in acceptable state. So then we'll move to the kind of procedural items with how the dirt is going to be moved there. The applicant provided a narrative to go with the plans. So I asked that all the information in the narrative be included on the plan that will be stamped by the planning board. A couple of those items I have here. The first one is that the narrative states that 20 to 100 loads of material is going to be delivered daily to the site. With that, I asked that the applicant provide the type of construction vehicles that will be delivering material.
It's the truck that would deliver the material would be a typical triaxle.
Okay. So no large dump trailer.
There won't be, you won't get onto the site, so it would not be a dump trailer.
So no
Or
trucks,
10,
no trucks larger than a tractor.
no, there should be no trucks larger than trucks.
So could you,
Excuse me, Sean, we have, for the ignorant among us, could you give me a definition of a triaxle?
sure, triaxle is the largest dump truck. So what the applicant is stating is that those triaxles, or the largest trucks would be a large dump truck, not the trailers, the dump trailers, which would be,
But a large dump truck is a large dump.
Essentially, a triaxle is a 10-wheel dump truck, but it has a tag axle in front of the two sets of tires in the rear. And they only put that triaxle so they can get permits so they can haul more weight. Typically, a triaxle holds between 16 and 18 yards per truck.
16, 18, sorry.
Cubic yards,
Cubic yards.
Is that the size truck that was on Angola Road while moving all the dirt from West Point?
Well, let us familiar with triaxles.
Yes.
That's why I'm
Yes.
inquiring at
Yes, there were some
80 trips a day.
there were some full-length trailer type dumps in that operation as well, but mostly it was the triaxles, the same kind described here.
So what is
18 yards is a significant truck.
what is the weight of that?
20 to 25 tons.
Permitted, they usually can't go over 20 ton. So
And
somewhere between 16 and 20 ton.
No, we're just inquiring. I mean, it's
No,
not-
that's fine.
That's a payload, not the total weight of the vehicle.
Correct.
Well,
Correct.
Right, so the total weight of the vehicle can exceed 50,000 pounds.
God, I feel like we're on a construction meeting. So we have a 20-ton truck full
With another
up to 100 a day? And how many days are we talking about?
Once again, it's gonna be weather dependent, it's also gonna be material dependent. You have to get suitable material because it's gonna be for a farming use.
It's going to be, so you're putting a farm use like.
Well, the
It's
material,
just fills.
and we're bringing in fill, but it should be, it has to be a clean fill, something that would not impact the ability to use it as a pasture or farmland. So, you know, you got some vetting you have to do with the source, make sure it's clean, suitable,
So
clay,
you're
proper
bringing in
standard.
organic, you're bringing in organic material, not
No,
just clean fill?
the best thing you can do is strip the topsoil in the existing area, even though it's kind of a bowl now. You want to strip that topsoil to put down for reuse.
Right, so you were talking about no clearing and grubbing a second ago, but you are talking about stockpiling organic material.
But the topsoil again, you know,
Of what depth?
whatever exists on the site.
Okay, so these are the sorts of details that Sean's pursuing in his comments, and that we'll need to know.
So this is not raising the level of the property.
Yes,
It is.
It is raising.
Oh, yes.
Filling up the bowl.
And we don't have any idea of how many, I think Jim's very best point, I think, that, we who live on Angola Road witnessed West Point's, trucks, I will call them triaxles, going up and down, Angola Road. And we now see the Oregon Trail in some areas, the weight of those trucks really does do play some games with the quality of the road itself, creates. Now, is it reasonable from an engineering point of view to assume that 100 trucks a day weighing 20 tons apiece over an extended period of time might in fact create the Oregon Trail?
On a town road that's not built to the standards of the Angola Road, the county road is built to, yes.
Okay, now do we know what the road is that they will use there? I'm presuming Otterkill Road coming up.
Do you have a route as to what you'll be
Well,
coming to?
what I was gonna suggest is for the next submission to the board, why don't we go out there and do a survey of the existing road, give you the distance and all the information and how far it is to the whole site.
Not to interrupt you, but I'm more interested in what road it is. For example, what is the road that comes from 32 over to
Yeah,
that?
they come out of Clove Road, or how they come in?
Yeah, if they're coming in Otterkill Road off of 208, that's one thing. And then if they're coming
From Clove.
I believe it would come off of Clove Road, would be the other one seems a little steep in parts, yeah, from the south.
Clove Road would be,
The west side.
Correct.
That's a county road?
where you're.
That is a county road.
That's terrible. So
Yeah,
it would be
nothing on
further
Taylor.
down, it would be, right, so that's why and I would be concerned that Horse Mill Road to be able to try to come down Otterkill from there. So that's why I was inquiring as to what the route would be.
Do you know where the fill is coming from?
It's probably, in my mind, it's gonna come from whatever source has it. It's not like anybody has the amount of fill, so they're gonna go look at the sources and bring them in as they can. Not everybody's performing work all the time constantly.
So I think we should get some input from the highway superintendent as to which direction he would prefer.
Yeah, and if it's coming through that intersection up at Horse Mill and Jackson, that's a question.
Right.
Because that intersection, we would have to evaluate that very carefully.
Let's favorite intersection, as we
Yeah,
all
from the
know.
point of view of public safety, that would have to be carefully evaluated. Yeah, that's not easy.
The fill, where it comes from?
We will have to require a certification that the fill is clean
On every load.
on every load.
And who does that certification?
Well, I think that's up for, I'm sorry,
Is it whoever's hauling
who's ever hauling it, but we should have a certification on each one from the.
I believe on the project in the town of Newburgh, they actually did have someone from the town who actually oversaw that. Due to the fact that they were taking the dirt from, the fill from the Amazon building and bringing it through, and it was red flagged because of how it affected all of the neighborhoods that it went through. So just to say that, yes, that may be a reference for you to be able to touch base with them to see how they process that.
OSI is also requiring proof of that, of clean fill as well, so the applicant, that's one of the conditions that OSI put in their letter, is that they're also requiring confirmation of clean fill, so they'll need to provide it to both the town and OSI.
prior to the dirt being placed, not.
Yeah, I don't see an adversarial process, but I think that everybody's really kind of curious and open. I just remember those trucks going up and down Angola Road. They were very, very substantial. And I'm sure that there's some damage done on the Angola trucks.
Well, just also just the effect that it has on the neighborhood, so.
Yes, you don't know over what period that
The period is gonna be when they can get the suitable fill to place it, right? So we may get they may get a source that's not suitable for the farming use. It's the applicant's also desire not to put dirty fill into his farm, you know? It's not like we're filling for a parking lot or something, you know, where they just want to fill, so. Like I said, it's hard to determine because you don't know who's gonna bring fill from where and at what time.
Right.
So it's hard to determine how much fill, that's why the load count was such a range, you know, just to give an idea of how many you could have. Like in the winter, typically you won't be filling in here. If you have snow, if you have ice, you're really not gonna bring fill in because there won't be much work going on and you're not gonna snow plow the facility. So, you know, there's say 3 months a year that you're not gonna have any impact on the road. Then also you're gonna have times, that's why we're defining times.
You did define
And we're not doing weekends, because the simple fact is we don't wanna create the most disturbance for the neighbors of the road at the time when the most people are home.
I would just suggest getting an idea of what the outside duration of time will be that the town can expect to have anywhere between 12 and 100 trucks on the
No,
road.
understood. Yes, sir.
I mean, just to.
No, of course, of
And
course.
the sequencing of operations, I totally agree with you, Mr. Chairman, because you're now stockpiling organic material stripped from the site to preserve it for future use and spreading above the structural fill you're gonna be placing. So you're basically placing a fill inside of there, has to be some compaction standard, has to be some known gradations, et cetera. And then you're gonna be respreading that stockpile back out again, or just leaving it in a pile. And so that can't proceed over an indefinite period of time, but would have to be instead phased, so that we would know, hey, once the fill is completed on 2 to 4 acres, I intend to take half the stockpile and respread it to return the pasture to pasture.
That's exactly what was planned to be done, is once an area gets done, we can now put the topsoil back, seed it, restore it, and then keep filling until we
Right,
reach
that's
the
certainly the
ultimate
intent,
goal.
but, you know, that needs to be reflected.
Of course, of course.
Now, Sean, if there were weather, is there any drainage pattern? Does this go towards the Woodland Creek or anything of that nature? I mean, is there a possibility of south sediment or silt or whatever?
There absolutely is. There is a tributary of the movement that traverses through the site. So obviously the erosion sediment control measures that I asked for in my memo will have to address how the sediment load could affect the movement.
Okay, well, all sides do into this too, so they get it. I mean, all right, does anyone else have any questions? Have I missed you yet?
No, that means I agree with Sean, there's significant further development required for us to give a full evaluation plan.
But it was very gracious of you to explain that stuff. That's it, all the questions? Okay. good.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Air guys. How are you, sir?
I'm Mike Neely, I'm the engineer for the applicant. We're proposing an 11,900 square foot building on the north end side of Manhattan.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
My name is Mike Neely. Project is proposing an 11,900 square foot building on the north end side of 9W at the north end of town. Before tenants, it's well septic. We had a workshop and we have a lot of, we'll say, work to do. There's wetlands on the property we have to get flagged, and there's still some engineering we have to get the septic design. But we want to get started here because we're going to need to get a zone change from the town board. There was a lot line change down here back in, I think it was 2017, and the lot line was never moved. So currently, the zone line between the HC and SR2 zone completely cuts through the property.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Going in, prior to the meeting, because we didn't have a full clarity on the authority to represent for you to represent the owners of the property. And our attorney has assured us that there was a letter that was provided that offered that authority to address these issues. Just so I just want to be sure it's on the record.
Yes,
Am I correct?
Mr. Evans did provide a letter from the property owner, saying that he can hear. We do need a proxy, so I believe Diane contacted that to Mr. Evans.
I do.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Oh, sure. So we want to get started with that. We need a referral to the town board. We also wanted to try to get started with DOT because we will need that curb cut onto the state highway. So we want to get those started while we work through the engineering, but any questions or comments to kind of get this started, we're welcome to.
Very good. Okay, thank you, guys. Kristen?
Thank you. The site is split between the SR2 zone and the HC zone, so the zone line runs right through basically the center of the property, kind of diagonally. So the applicant is proposing a zoning map amendment to relocate that zoning boundary so that the entire portion of the developable portion of the property along the road is all in the HC zone. And for the construction of an 11,900 square foot commercial building with 4 tenant spaces. We did talk about, as Mike and I mentioned, we talked about this at the workshop, and we kind of worked through the zoning. So I think the zoning is correct, and it matches kind of what we were recommending, what Gary, we all recommended at the workshop meeting, which is to consider the site an office space with accessory storage, so that the use is kind of, there is storage, but it's just private storage. It's nothing that they're gonna be, not gonna be selling wholesale or it's just for their own office spaces. And all the storage has to be in completely enclosed buildings. We had kind of several plan amendment revisions that need to happen, kind of questions and things, as Mike said, there's some engineering that still needs to take place. The parking was calculated at 16 spaces. I mean, you can chat a little bit about 2 of the spaces are for trailers, so I didn't want to talk about parking need, or you can put that in a future narrative. But that's something you're gonna have to look at. If you're gonna put 2 trailers there, are you gonna really, those are your only 2 spaces for air guys? You might wanna think about leaving yourself an employee space of some kind. The way that I mean, those are your 2 spaces according to zoning.
Okay.
I will jump down to, obviously we talked about additional plan materials, lighting, landscaping, trash enclosure, things of that nature need to be on the plan, signage. The EAF that was provided, I did shoot you an email. The EAF needs to be generated. I sent you the link too, so because my understanding is that the link was dead or disconnected or broken or something on the town's website.
That link's happening.
The DC likes to update its information every week or so. They like to change their whole system. Surprise. So yeah, that's potentially why it was broken. But I sent you the live link so you can get in there and do that with the mapper program, so that you can get the automated responses will be correct. I think that a short EAF is fine based on the size and the scope of the project, but you have to use the mapper tool. Obviously, you have a couple of involved agencies, being the DOT and the town board. So this is gonna kind of take on the path that Vet Rep Theater did, in that this board traditionally in these types of projects takes lead agency, because you're most familiar with taking on the secret process and reviewing site plans. And this applicant can go and proceed to the town board and get on an agenda there, present to them to get that moving. Because they're gonna have to have a public hearing at the town board level as well, so that they have the ability to kind of get that moving while keeping things kind of going here. So it's kind of a parallel paths can move together at the same time. It's exactly what the applicant wants to do to save themselves some time. So I think that the planning board should declare themselves an agency tonight. This is an unlisted action, unlike Vet Rep, this is an unlisted action, but I think that we should coordinate the review in order to make sure that everything's kind of done, like I said, done simultaneously. I do need, whenever you get that revised EAF completed, you can shoot me an email, because this application requires referral to Orange County Planning Department, and requires the EAF to be sent along with it, so I'll need that document. also will need that to circulate to the agency. That's why I have you, I knew that you, I had faith that you knew exactly how to do it.
No problem.
So anyway, so that, need that document whenever, don't, you can just send it to me whenever you get it completed, so I get those things in process. And with that after you declare yourselves the agency, I would recommend that you refer the application to the town board so that they can proceed with the board, to start presenting their case for a zoning map amendment there.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Sean?
Sure, Chris can cover a lot of items, I'll try to keep it short. The application will need to have a deep pit percolation test reviewed by our office, since there's a septic system proposed. Additionally, water will be provided by on-site well, so detail will have to be included on the plans to provide water to the site and for the well construction. And then lastly, because the wetlands are on the backside of the site, I asked that an additional erosion sediment control measure be provided, although a SWIP is not required because the disturbance is either 0.8 or 0.9 acres, depending if you're looking at the EAF or the plan, but less than 1 acre, so a SWIP is not required. I'm sorry, one last item, as Mike had mentioned, DOT referral for the curb cut that's proposed in IW will be required. Typically, DOT wants to see a referral from the lead agency. So if you guys are acceptable, I can make that referral at this time.
They will vote on hiring the lead agency and then ask that you contact DOT and give you a call. Okay, with that, Steve?
My only comment, like, with the plans showing, surveying information on it, that I would like to see either a letter from the surveyor who performed the work, or have him sign the plans.
Correct, he's going back out because we're waiting for the wetlands to get reflagged, and then Youngblood's gonna go back out and I'll put his info on whatever map he provides to everyone out here. So I'll reference it, no problem.
Okay, thanks, sir. Nothing's a different concern.
Is that a capital one?
Yeah. No, since we're moving towards, considering, sending it towards the town board for consideration movement of the zone lines here, I think it would be appropriate if there was a plan sheet which showed, structures on all adjacent, location of structures on all adjacent properties. I had a hard time figuring out, where exactly any structures on Nielsen, Flanagan, the one labeled here, 2630 Route 9W. I mean, I tried to go into the Google Maps and look at it or whatever, but I think in order to consider fully the zoning change, it would be nice to know what adjacent structures are, what their uses are, just simple surveying stuff, 2-story frame residence, that kind of stuff, 1-story commercial center block, that kind of thing would be helpful.
It's like Jimmy's Sports Bar, and then a single family home, and then a large lot with mafia blocks, and a boat. Been there for a very long time, which won't be there.
Right, I think it would help the case, what I'm saying is I think it would help speed things up in terms of consideration, public hearings, that kind of thing. Yeah, Nielsen, I believe
It's a
Nielsen's.
giant concrete.
Yeah, I think there are some differences.
For the trades tonight.
So there seemed to me to be about 5 adjacent lots, and if we could just show any structures with a label of what those structures are on those adjacent lots, I think it'll show that they are far away from the proposed action. That would be helpful in consideration of the action. I think prior to it going forward to the town board for that consideration.
Well, that would be the town board's responsibility, yeah.
Yes, and on that point, I mean, the proper procedure for the applicant to follow is for them to reach out to the supervisor and see how the town, when, the town board would want to hear from them regarding the proposal. We don't refer things to the town board, on behalf of an applicant.
Right.
You would have to make that request of the supervisor.
We simply declare the agency.
Correct.
And then we move forward from there. So with that, I think it was very good points. Our role tonight would be to determine our status as the agency with regard to the project. So if I'll take a motion to declare lead agency for this project. So move. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now, with that, we ask Sean a referral for DOT review, correct?
I'll do that. Yep.
Okay, and then it's up to you to go to the town board to see the zoning change. We have nothing to do with the zoning change. So, all good. Correct? Yeah. Where's your procedure?
I get it.
Okay, so with that, I don't think, if there are no other questions on your project, we'll continue.
Currently, I have possession of a parcel, and it's undeveloped, basically completely graded flat. I'd like to put a fence and a gate in front of the entrance to it so that I can put things there. Is that an issue that requires your intercession?
That's a very good question. Krista or Sean, I think.
Yeah, I think of a plan of what you're looking to propose to be submitted to Gary's office, I can take a look with him.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Does that answer your question?
That does.
Perfect, thanks.
Thank you all for your public service.
Thank you. Good. Okay, with that, let me see. Dominic, am I missing anything? Yeah. He's still in Never Land over there. Very nice. Thank you all. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Thank you.